Uppercut is a gritty character-driven drama centered on Tony Williams, a fiery and privileged young woman determined to become a professional boxer, and Elliot Duffond, a grizzled reclusive former trainer whose legacy is slowly slipping into obscurity. The film opens with atmospheric sound design, stone-grinding wind, discordant music signaling the tension and rawness of the world Tony is entering. Payne Harris, a brash and media-savvy fighter promoted by Tony, is moments away from a major bout. Though the crowd chants for him, the tension behind the scenes suggests cracks beneath the surface. Tony's intense preparation and pressure set the tone. She's navigating a male-dominated space where respect is hard-won and even harder to hold on to. Parallel to this, we meet Elliot in his worn-down gym, a blues-loving purist with no time for pretenders. He's crusty, wounded, and immediately hostile when Tony breaks in, demanding to be trained. She's relentless, citing his past success training fighters like Akeem and offering to clean in exchange for a chance. Elliot resists, but her knowledge of boxing and unwillingness to back down plants a seed. As the story unfolds, we learn Tony's backstory. She's estranged from her influential father, yearning to prove herself beyond his shadow. Her privilege clashes with her grit. A confrontation with Payne exposes deep tensions. He accuses her of racism, of not supporting him because he's black. She in turn challenges his entitlement and explosive ego. Their explosive fight culminates in a moment of raw physical confrontation, and Elliot steps in just as things spiral, further blurring lines between pain and purpose. Tony's persistence finally convinces Elliot to put her through a brutal test of character and humility. She scrubs floors, trains barefoot, dances to Buddy Guy's blues, not out of romanticism but to find her rhythm, her presence. Elliot insists boxing isn't about revenge but about control, discipline, and self-knowledge. Tony begins to understand this as she sheds her bravado. A flashback-laden conversation reveals Tony's lowest point, a high school soccer game where she was unjustly ejected and later accused of violence. Her passionate, uncontrolled reaction led to court-mandated community service. The incident left her alienated, humiliated, and branded as unstable, a turning point that fueled her need to find a place where strength and justice aren't mutually exclusive. As Tony slowly gains Elliot's trust, their teacher-student relationship deepens into something resembling mentorship. She learns not only physical technique, footwork, precision, timing, but also emotional resilience. Elliot, once embittered and withdrawn, starts investing in her, impressed by her raw instinct and willingness to be vulnerable. Her training becomes a kind of redemption for both of them. Meanwhile, Payne's fight looms in the background. He's flashy, fast, and has a massive online following but lacks discipline. He and Tony are increasingly at odds. His ego spirals, her focus sharpens. When Payne insults Elliot and mocks Tony, it's clear he represents everything she's trying to move beyond. As Elliot trains her, he tells her, "I don't train fighters. I make fighters." He begins molding her not just physically but mentally, teaching her to endure pain, channel rage, and find purpose beyond just proving people wrong. Tony, who once sought boxing to prove she was tough, begins to internalize the deeper meaning of the sport: control, identity, dignity. Elliot shares his own past drug hustling scars and the symbolic weight of pain. Unlike Tony's upbringing, Elliot's life was shaped by survival. Where Tony sought rebellion, Elliot needed boxing to live. These opposing paths find common ground in the ring. Throughout the film, the recurring motif of blues music, especially the song Uppercut, symbolizes transformation and emotional depth. The song's title becomes a metaphor for Tony's evolution. Once wild, reckless, and unformed, she is now being shaped, chiseled into a fighter. The climax is not a traditional fight but rather a moment of earned acceptance. Elliot demands total commitment. When she finally breaks, cries, and admits her vulnerabilities, her need to be more than her father's daughter, her shame, her pain, he agrees to truly train her. In the final scenes, Tony stands in the gym alone, preparing. She's bruised, sweaty, barefoot, but focused. Her journey is just beginning. Uppercut is less a typical sports story and more a character study about power, respect, and the cost of transformation. It interrogates themes of race, gender, trauma, and self-worth through intimate performances and minimalist atmospheric direction. Ultimately, it's a story about the need to be seen, the fight to define oneself, and how pain, when confronted, can become power. Tony, a determined and emotionally conflicted young woman, trains to become a professional boxer under the stern guidance of Elliot, a former champion whose career was cut short by a brutal and illegal hit in the ring. Haunted by past trauma and discouraged by a personal life full of compromise, Tony seeks purpose and power through the art of boxing. As her training begins, she struggles physically and mentally, faltering through grueling drills while battling emotional suppression and lingering doubts. Elliot's coaching is relentless. His ethos, "you always end standing," becomes a mantra he drills into Tony through punishing sit-stand drills and physical exercises that challenge her resolve. Beneath his gruff exterior, Elliot wrestles with his own demons, particularly the regret of his final fight and the betrayal by his mother, who sabotaged his attempt to protect his younger siblings. Tony's world outside the gym is just as turbulent. Her boyfriend Darius is a tech-obsessed, image-conscious entrepreneur who disapproves of her boxing aspirations. Their relationship is increasingly strained. He's dismissive, emotionally distant, and mocks her accent and ambitions. A night out with another man leads to a viral photo that fractures their already tenuous relationship. When Darius won't pick her up late at night, Tony sees clearly that she's alone in her pursuit. As her training continues, Tony's physical toughness builds, but her emotional wounds remain raw. She bonds with Elliot through shared pain and growing respect. A pivotal moment comes when Elliot finally dons gloves to spar with her his first time in years. He teaches her finesse, strategy, and respect for the ring. For Elliot, boxing is sacred ground. For Tony, it becomes a path to personal redemption. Meanwhile, Elliot faces pressure from Rita, a longtime friend and colleague, to show up for Payne Harris, a rising star under his mentorship who's set to fight for a major title. Elliot initially resists being ringside, burdened by past failures and self-doubt. But Rita's heartfelt plea, invoking the admiration of her granddaughter and the younger generation, reminds him of his influence and responsibility. Tony's confidence grows as she finds her rhythm. She endures setbacks, injuries, emotional collapses, but keeps rising. She expresses anger toward Elliot, accusing him of being just like Darius, but ultimately recognizes he's the first to truly see and nurture her strength. When Elliot reveals the story of hitting his abusive mother to protect his brother, their bond deepens, rooted in shared trauma and the search for justice. As Payne's fight looms, tension builds. Elliot agrees to return to the corner, encouraged by Tony's progress and Rita's urging. During the high-stakes match, Payne struggles but digs deep, ultimately pulling through. Back in the gym, Tony thrives. Her technique improves and she begins dominating sparring sessions. Elliot acknowledges her growth but warns her that physical skill is not enough, she needs a real reason to fight. Tony, rejecting offers to join a track team, insists that boxing is what she wants. Elliot tests her further, questioning her motives. When she passionately defends her choice, Elliot finally respects her resolve. In a symbolic final scene, Tony spars with Elliot in the ring. She wears headgear and prepares for a real bout. Their match is fierce but respectful, blending pain, trust, and mutual understanding. After knocking Elliot down, Tony sees what she's become, not just a fighter but someone who's earned respect. Meanwhile, Darius leaves a voicemail acknowledging Tony's presence at the fight and her strength, but the moment feels too late. Tony has moved on, empowered by her own choices and resilience. The final scenes show her calm and focused, in control of her body and mind. This is a story about redemption, agency, and power, physical, emotional, and spiritual. It explores gender roles, trauma, ambition, and mentorship through the lens of boxing, where every hit carries history and every victory reclaims identity. Tony's journey, guided by Elliot's hard-earned wisdom, becomes a testament to rising not just from the mat but from life's heaviest blows. At its core, this story is not just about boxing, it's about transformation, resilience, and reclaiming agency in a world that constantly underestimates and tries to reshape you. Tony's journey from emotional instability and external validation to focused self-belief reflects a larger battle faced by many, the fight to define oneself on one's own terms. Through the sweat, bruises, and broken expectations, she doesn't just become a better boxer, she becomes a stronger, more self-aware human being. Elliot, too, is transformed. Once a fallen champion burdened by regret, he finds purpose again through mentoring Tony and returning to the corner for Payne's defining fight. He rediscovers what it means to believe in someone else, to pass on knowledge not just for glory but for healing. His past doesn't define him, his decision to return to fight in a new way does. Darius represents the forces in Tony's life that try to control or confine her appearance, status, and emotional detachment. By breaking away from his expectations, she breaks free from needing to be acceptable and instead embraces her raw, imperfect, yet powerful self. The final image of Tony in the ring, fierce, focused, and unflinching, is more than a moment of victory. It's a reclamation. No longer performing for anyone else, she fights because she wants to. Because she can. And because, like Elliot taught her, no matter how many times she's knocked down, she always ends standing. In a world of appearances, noise, and pressure, this is what endurance looks like. This is what strength truly is, not in domination but in the choice to rise again on your own terms, in your own skin, and with your fists ready. If you enjoy watching this video, then subscribe to Angel Recaps for the latest movies explanation.